John Kuzmich here for banddirector.com. We are with Ron Kearns, and we are going to present the quick reference for band directors, and it is a book that is a must for band directors, entry level through experience, because it represents more than 30 years of on the task, on the job teaching, and he's really done a good job, and we're anxious to share it. So Ron, how about a 30-second profile of what the book is really about?
Well, John, Quick Reference for Band Directors is a book designed to help band directors build and maintain a successful band program. There are different strategies as to how to establish the program, how to keep the program interesting to the community and to the students, and how to build and create an even bigger and better program as time goes on.
Well said. And as we go to ourselves, I want the audience to see who we are. We are distinguished because we represent 75 plus years of classroom experience, and experience is the guidelines for this book and gives it the credibility that we hope to share with you and, well, with the readership, and give everybody a stimulus that this is a book they need to check out. So I'm going to go to the PowerPoint, and we're going to find out what is in each of these 22 chapters.
Okay.
Chapter 1. So you want to be a band director. Clarify that.
Yeah, this chapter is designed to give new band directors an idea of the planning for personal development and the need to have a personal philosophy of music education. It also discusses the importance of being able to develop a resource network and be able to reach out to others for help.
Well, I think that's an important criteria, because in today's job market, you really have to have those skills to survive. Now, building a program in your current school or new school may not be a textbook story because of what came before you. What magical ingredients do you share with the readers in this chapter?
Well, in most cases, it doesn't really matter whether you're a new or a veteran teacher building a program in a new school, or a veteran teacher building a program in the current school. There are going to be some things that are going to be the same, and some of the same challenges are going to be faced in each situation. So this chapter gives you some strategies for gaining, maintaining, and retaining students. It also gives some pointers on how to engage parents and administration in the process, and how to reach out to the community, so that you not only have an in-school support system, but you have an outsourced system outside of the school system that will help you to be able to have good public relations and cause students who are in lower grades to have interest in coming into this program, so that the program will be maintained and also have some growth.
Well, that's a great outline. Now, I noticed that one of the first steps in this book is you must have a handbook that clearly presents the program, which means you know precisely what you want to do from point A to point B to point C. Anything else that you want to specify about the importance of a handbook?
Well, the biggest thing about a handbook is that it gives a resource for parents, students, and you as the director, as well as the administration of your school, to have something to go and tangibly look at and see exactly what your program is going to be about. So this gives you an opportunity to have a calendar for all the students, have forms and different things that students are going to need to have in order to go out for performances and festivals and other kinds of assessments, and everything that you want them to know about dress codes and different things could be included and should be included in the handbook. And so in creating a handbook, you're actually creating a roadmap for success, because you give yourself, as well as your students and parents, a GPS system that they can follow and know that they can get from point A to point B by doing these things that are listed in the handbook.
Well said. And as much as we like to avoid lesson plans, they can make the difference between success and not being as successful. Any points here to stress?
Yes, the biggest thing is I'm always surprised to find out that band directors don't see the importance of lesson plans and developing lesson plans, and they think that they can just go into the classroom and start teaching something off the top of their head, and that can be done occasionally. But then when you have certain things that you want your students to be able to actually walk away from that rehearsal or walk away from that class remembering and knowing, the lesson plan gives you a concise guide for working, and it gives everybody a chance to understand the pacing of the lesson and the purpose of the lesson that you're doing for that particular day.
Well, that's a strong point of reference, and of course, it all goes to having a successful first performance. Anything here we need to take note on?
Just the fact that the first performance will be the measuring stick of your success in your program. However, that first impression comes across to the audience, and however the students feel after they perform that first performance will have long-lasting repercussions in your program. And so, if they're not successful, or if they can't enjoy being part of the program that they thought was going to be successful, then they're going to lose interest, and you're also going to start losing support from others because they're not going to have the confidence that they should have in you or your program. So you want to make sure that first performance is successful and shows everyone what your goals and your ideas for a successful band program will be.
Now, difficult to move fast when you don't have the support system around you because the band program is a big operation and requires the coordination of a lot of people. Where do you start here to develop the support for your band program?
Well, this is one of those things that they don't teach you in colleges and universities in preparing to build a program. You actually have to be a PR person, you have to be a manager, you have to be a personnel specialist, because you've got to put together a team that's going to help to make your program successful. You're going to need to have chaperones. You're going to need to have parents involved. You're going to need to have people that are going to help you with the budget. You're going to need to have an administration that's going to be supportive. You need to have people outside of the school that are going to be supportive. So Chapter 6 talks about how to pull all these different people together and make them stakeholders in your program so that they feel that they have something to gain or something to lose with your program. If your program is successful, they gain. If your program is not successful, they lose. And so you want them to buy into what you're doing.
Well said. Now, the benchmark for a lot of music teachers is how well they participate in music festivals. Any words of note here?
Well, music festivals are now assessments, and so since they've become tied into teacher evaluations, preparing for a festival is more than just preparing for a good performance. It's preparing to show and demonstrate how well you have prepared your students as a music educator. And so you want to make sure that once again you go back to the lesson plan part and know why, and make sure your students know why they're doing certain things for festival participation and performance. It's not just about the rating, even though the rating is the most important part to most of the stakeholders, because they want to see a successful grade from the rating, an excellent or superior. But you also want to make sure that your students know that the important thing about festival participation is that it gives judges and others an opportunity to see what kinds of things have been going on in your classroom.
Well said, because learning is the essence of everything. Um, Operating a budget, developing a budget, that can be quite a task.
Yeah, this is probably the thing that will either help your program to float or sink. If you don't have a budget that will support and maintain what you already have, and also look forward to the kinds of things you're going to need to help it grow and help it develop to a higher level and a better place, you're not going to be successful. So in developing a budget, you need to know, what kinds of expenses are we going to have? What kind of things are we going to need to have to make sure that the students are ready? If we have a marching band, are we going to need to have raincoats for when they go out in the rain? So we need to put that in the budget. Our instruments are going to need repairs. how many instruments do we have in the school that students can use, and all those kinds of things go into a budget. And so you want to have someone in a boosters group, you want to have the management people in your school and others that develop budgets to give you assistance so that you know what kinds of things to look forward to. And most band directors have no idea when they go into a school, especially high schools, how important it is to have knowledge of developing a budget.
Now, musicianship, which is the core of any music instruction, how do we develop that?
Well, chapter 9 discusses different ways of being able to develop musicianship and things that you as a conductor and director can do from the podium that will assist students in developing musicianship. But it also talks about the kinds of things to help the students develop good practice skills and how to use their good musicianship skills in class for things like cross listening, intonation, attacks and releases, and those kinds of things. All the things that will make you have a successful performance, and once again going back to that first performance and any subsequent performances that you'll have.
I don't have to tell you, classroom management can make the difference of a 10-year teacher or one who leaves the profession very quickly. Any words of wisdom here?
Yeah, the biggest thing that happens with classroom management goes back to something I mentioned a little earlier about the importance of pacing, and this is where lesson plans will help you. Most of the classroom management problems and issues that teachers have that cause burnout or cause young teachers to leave the classroom come from discipline problems, and most discipline problems come from something that's not being done from the podium by way of classroom management. Sometimes we spend so much time with one section working out something, trying to work for something for perfection, that we forget that we've left 2/3 of the band doing nothing and having an opportunity to get bored. So as we start to plan our lessons and things and start to plan how the classroom is going to be managed, we want to keep in mind those kinds of things that will lead to negative behaviors from students. And so we want to make sure that we don't have to deal with discipline problems, that we do things that will avoid discipline problems. So chapter 10 talks about some strategies to avoid having to go through discipline problems and having to keep students on task.
Now, the never-ending battle. Improve the band's performance.
Yeah, this is the never-ending battle, because in order to improve your band's performance, it goes back to chapter 9, developing musicianship in band class. You can't do it alone, and so you have to be able to have a group of students who can assume some leadership positions in their sections, in their different instrumental groups that they're with, and make sure that everyone buys into the importance of being able to have a good performance. And so you want to make sure that you don't have any kind of lapses in time where students aren't on task and don't feel that they are responsible for being on task. And so it comes down to a group of individuals coming together to get a unified approach to performing.
And I might say perfect practice isn't just practice, but learning how to practice correctly.
Yes.
And that goes within the rehearsal, not just outside. So that is a never-ending challenge. Now, no band program is an island by itself. It needs a feeder system. What have you done to stress the elementary program as a feeder?
Well, one of the things that we discussed, and one of the things I found out when going through putting the book together, was that there are still some places where band directors on the high school level are paired with elementary schools and have elementary schools that feed into their system. And so you need to know what the elementary school band director has to do, whether you do it yourself or not. And if you are the one doing it, you need to know how to schedule pullouts and how to schedule classes, how to get students recruited, how to make sure parents know the kinds of expenses they're going to have for kids coming into a band program, instrumental rental, different things. And this chapter talks about how to develop those things from the ground up so that you can get the scheduling, so that you can get the instrumental usage taken care of, and so that you can make parents aware of what's expected of band students in a successful band program.
Now, the heart of the music program deals with the symphonic band, concert band, wind ensemble. What advice or structure do you advocate?
Well, in this chapter, we talk about the importance of having a concert band for your entry level students, and then as things get better, having a symphonic band, which is a larger band that will appeal to more difficult levels of playing and higher level students. And then hopefully being able to develop a wind ensemble, which would be your elite group, would give your top students an opportunity to perform some of the most difficult music available for bands. And so talk about the instrumentation that you want to have for each of those groups. We talk about the composers and arrangers for each of those groups. And at the end of the chapter, there's a list of suggested literature, suggested composers and arrangers, and a list of publishers that the director can go to and find the kind of music that they're going to need for festivals and the kind of music that they're going to want to have to help their students enjoy the process of being in band, so that all three levels of band are challenged and have an opportunity for each of the students to have a fulfillment of their musical interests.
Now, there is a strong case for small ensembles for improving one's band, not only in sound, but in leadership and in development. What points of view do you share in this chapter?
Well, in almost every band program, you're going to have students that are going to be a little more advanced than most of the students. And so one of the ways of capturing them and keeping them interested is using small ensembles. But at the lower end, you can also use smaller ensembles to help students be aware of some of the things that you want the larger ensemble to be aware of, but that students don't normally hear or can't always hear when they're in larger ensembles. Things like attacks and releases and intonation and tone quality, blending and sonorities and things can be achieved more so using small ensembles than using larger ensembles, because once again, if you're trying to listen across a large band, you may not hear who else is playing your part, or you may not hear the line of music that's leading to your line that's going to be coming up. But when you're playing in a small ensemble and there's one person on each part, if that one person doesn't pull his or her weight, then it's very obvious that that line or that part is missing. And so the students become very much aware of the importance of everyone in the band contributing their part and how each part of the band functions. And they get that from the small ensemble, and they take it back, hopefully, into the larger ensembles.
Now, when you expand your program, what opportunities do you suggest?
Well, one of the things that you have to be very much aware of as a band director is the fact that everybody in your band is not going to necessarily be turned on by the same style of music, and so you want to be able to offer a varied number of groups that your students can participate in. And so developing satellite groups like a marching band, a jazz ensemble, small jazz combos, and different satellite groups that will keep students interested and also give each student an opportunity to develop to their optimum. You want to make sure that there are offerings. And one of the things that we talk about is the importance of those groups and how each of those groups is still a satellite group to the larger group and still has responsibility to the rest of the band.
And now we have possibly the top PR thing of any music program in terms of band program, the marching band. How do you develop that?
Well, the marching band, first of all, the function of a marching band is it's a band or musical organization that marches. And so you want to make sure that you keep the focus on musicianship and the instrumental part of the band, more so than just the show parts. And so we talk about how the marching band is the first group that anyone will see and judge your program by. And the number of people that will see the marching band far exceeds the number of people that will ever come to concerts inside the building. And so you want to make sure that whether it's fair or unfair, that your band is being judged by the marching band performance, that the marching band presents all of the qualities that you want to present as far as what your band program is going to be. And we talk about the two types of marching bands that are prevalent in the United States right now, and that's corps style marching and show style or high step. And we go through the terminology that's unique to each one of those, and we talk about the kinds of things that each of those groups need to do, and scheduling things like marching band camps and how to get people interested in marching band and what kinds of things to work on in marching band as far as tone quality, attacks and releases, and all those things that are so important to actual inside bands. We want to make sure that they are also focused on in marching bands. And so this is one of the larger chapters in the book, and discusses everything that you would probably need to know starting out as a marching band director. And like the other chapter, like chapter 13, it also has a listing of marching band literature, marching band publishers, and marching band composers and arrangers.
Now, the jazz idiom is obviously big in contemporary music education. What do you offer in this chapter?
Well, in developing a jazz ensemble as part of the overall band program, we talk about the importance of individual development as far as improvisation and learning styles. Um, Jazz is a different language from classical music, and so the students have to learn how to speak that particular language and the terminology and all the different things that are different about jazz ensemble. And so in chapter 17, we talk about the function of each of the sections of the jazz band. We talk about the importance of individual development as far as improvisation is concerned. And we talk about just what kinds of concepts you have to be aware of for developing a jazz ensemble. And as in the other chapters, there is a list of literature, suggested literature, and instruments that need to be focused on as far as what you need to get by way of the budget, the electric instruments and the drum kit and all those kinds of things. And we talk about the different setups of jazz ensembles so that you can see which setup is the best setup for your group, and just different strategies of how to maintain and develop a good jazz ensemble.
And I love that you have technology and multimedia because this is the 21st century and students are very responsive to this kind of instruction. What do you offer in this chapter?
Well, one of the things I talk about in this chapter goes back to the classroom management, different ways of being able to use PowerPoint in class to teach rhythms and to teach sections. And while you're working with one section, other sections can be engaged by following along and seeing, because in most cases, whatever you're teaching one section at some point in time, whether it's a snippet of it or whether it's a complete line, some other part of the band is going to be exposed to. And so using technology in the classroom, you can teach different things at different times. Also, with the smartphones and tablets and different things that are available, there are different apps that you can get now that will help each student to have a tuner on their phone so that they can check their tuning and metronomes on phones. And so you can do all kinds of things over the system in your classroom where you can have a tick track ticking so that the students will be conscious of tempo. You can have different kinds of ways of having students check their tuning and intonation as they go along. And there's so many things. And one of the problems with writing anything about technology is the fact that almost as soon as you write about it, it becomes something that's no longer new, and it's replaced by something else. And so I try to include links to different technology resources, as well as the National Association for Music Education, where it's constantly being upgraded. And so you as a teacher can check these resources and find out what today's technology is, and how you can still use any technology that you had purchased prior to it becoming something that's almost obsolete now.
Well, that's exciting. Now, everybody wants a quick fix when they need it. What are you referring to?
Well, one of the problems that every band director will face at some point in time is a student coming to him, as I say in the book, with a clarinet pad in one hand and the clarinet in the other hand, and looking at you as a teacher, uh, saying, what do I do? What do I do? And you want to be able to have a quick fix or some kind of idea of how to get that pad back in and seated so that student can play and perform for that particular performance. What happens if a spring pops out? What happens if the string on the keys of a French horn break? What happens when a student has left a ligature back at school? And all those kinds of things that are designed to get you through a particular performance, but not anything that's going to be a long-term fix. So we want you to be able to be aware of the fact that you can fix some things, but you also need to be able to go and get things taken care of by a professional repair person as soon as possible after you have done the quick fixes.
Very practical information. Now, we all know that there are non-music responsibilities in our jobs. Anything here to lighten the load of this extra duty?
Well, one of the things that I talk about is how sometimes having to have cafeteria duty or bus duty or some of the chaperoning things you have to do can come out to be a good thing because it gives you a chance as the band director to become a high profile person, and you meet students that may not be in your program that you can recruit into your program. It gives you a chance to see other people. We talk about the importance of attending faculty meetings and being part of the faculty so that you can be the advocate for your program, so that as things are being discussed like block scheduling or any other kind of scheduling changes in the school, you can be there at that meeting to speak for yourself. Sometimes as band directors we feel like we can get out of these kinds of meetings and we want to get out of some of the non-music responsibilities because we're so busy having rehearsals and so busy doing things in the band, and it comes out to the point where it creates an island for us and isolates us to the point that when we need to get some support from faculty members and people in the school, we don't know enough about them. We haven't interacted enough with them and haven't networked enough with them that we can get some of the assistance in the school that we need. And so non-music responsibilities for band directors becomes a very important thing.
Now, what are we referring to with general program management?
Well, general program management comes down to all the things. How many pencils am I going to need for my students to have? How do I get my uniforms cleaned enough to be able to pass them out before the first marching band performance? What kinds of things do I need to do to make sure every student can borrow an instrument from the school or can rent an instrument from a vendor? And so talk about the different kinds of ways of establishing um, relationships with vendors and music dealers and other ways of being able to deal with cleaners and people that will help you to get the kinds of things that you need to make sure that your program is in running order. So this is where being a manager and having managerial skills becomes a very important thing for a band director.
And no book should be without shortcuts. What kind of forms do you provide to speed up the busy days of a band director?
Well, the forms go with what I just talked about in the general program management. If you're going to manage your program, you're going to need to have forms. You need to have paperwork, and so I give you some of the sample forms that you're going to need in order to be able to have students have medical forms, um, inventory, keeping an inventory for your music, keeping an inventory for the instruments in your school, knowing who has borrowed an instrument when you have summer loans, and different kinds of things. Everything that you're going to need to do to have the program managed. And there are some school systems that provide forms for you, but then there's some forms that you have to provide for yourself. And so the forms that I've included in the book can be used exactly as they are in the book, or they can be customized for your use for your program. And one of the things that everybody knows is that at some point in time, everything comes down to some kind of form or something that has to be written and recorded for you to be able to give to somebody and show somebody. And once again, this goes back also to the technology part, because a lot of these forms and a lot of these things can be maintained on tablets and can be maintained on your smartphones, and so you can simply keep them there so that you always will have some place that you can go and you can see just what you have by way of students' medical forms, students' permission slips, and different kinds of things.
And later in this presentation, we'll look at some of those forms. But I think the one thing I want to stress as we take kind of a stretch break is that this book is very comprehensive. It really does cover the band director's responsibilities, whether it's classroom work, out of classroom work, and then all the different genres that you could be teaching, and it gives the band director a platform in which he can spot where he can find tips. He doesn't have to read the book chapter by chapter, page by page. I'm assuming the book has an index, and that the
Yeah,
go.
one of the things I did with the book is I put it in two parts. Part one is the long chapters with the long explanations of everything, and mentioned before too. The book is not designed to be read chapter by chapter in sequential order, even though it is lined and outlined in sequential order. But you can go to any chapter and find out what information you want to find out about a specific thing. The part two is the same chapters, but with shorter, quicker ways of looking at it, and that's the quick reference section, where you can go in and you can actually see, oh, this is what I need to do. And the way I have the table of contents done is I have a table of contents like the one that you're looking at here, but then I have another table of contents that gives a little a brief background of what each of the chapters will do, so that you can look at that and you can say, oh, chapter 17, developing a jazz ensemble as part of the overall band program, and then you can look and see exactly what's going to be covered in that chapter, and you can determine whether this chapter is going to be helpful to you or not. And it goes that way with each of the chapters, where I do a little bit of annotation so that people can see exactly what each chapter is going to give them. So not only do you see the titles of the chapters, you see the contents of the chapters.
Well, I think this dual referencing is very important because it makes the book more usable and gives it more opportunity to promote what they need to learn. Now, we're going to go on to the rest of the PowerPoint, and let's see what we've got to work with here. Uh, we've kind of hit the philosophy, but did we hit the philosophy of having a successful band program? Anything here about this roadmap that you've kind of outlined for us that needs to be reiterated?
Well, at the beginning of the book, when I talked about so you want to be a band director, so you want to be a band director, you need to know exactly what it is as a band director you're going to be doing. And to do that, you need to develop a personal philosophy of music education. You need to know and have a roadmap for yourself for exactly what you expect to achieve as a band director and what you expect to impart to your students as a band director. And the only way you can do that is to have a clear statement of what you believe. And by knowing what you believe, then you can help to have passion for what you believe, to attract students and to get them to buy into what you're trying to do.
Now, here we go with the components of that philosophy. Why do you value music education?
Right. Why is it important to you? What did you come across in music education that made you want to study and continue music education? So why is it, as a teacher, you feel that this is important, and what are you going to do?
And of course, what role does music education play in your life or in the life of the students?
Yes, we always say that music education is a lifelong process. Whether you're going to become a professional musician or whether you're going to become a member of an audience, how is music going to be part of your life for the rest of your life. And so, what role does music education play in your life addresses that. Am I preparing performers, professional performers, or am I preparing people who are going to have a lifelong interest in music?
And of course, what role do you want music to play in your students? And you hit on that very well. But I think that gives a synopsis of where you start with that philosophy. Now, I particularly liked your reason for a mission statement. It really made sense to me. Could you share that with our viewers?
Well, one of the things I used to do during the first week of school would be to sit down with each of my bands and talk about what we wanted to do and make sure that they knew that they were stakeholders in our success. And so we would develop a statement, a mission statement that said exactly, clearly and concisely what we wanted to do that year. And once we developed that mission statement, it went into the handbook. It went on the wall in the classroom so that every day, everyone coming in saw what our mission statement was. And it also fixed it so anybody who was a guest in the classroom and any administrators that came in could look and see what our mission statement was and see what it was we plan to achieve. And once again, it goes back to that whole concept of a roadmap. This is what used to be called developing a terminal objective. And the mission statement is simply a terminal objective. This is where we want to go. This is what we want to do.
Well, the thing that struck me in conversing with you before is that you'll have that mission statement on the wall in your in your band room, and at times it becomes a focus of what needs to be done better, and you have reinforcement because you've already made a commitment for that with your students, and it doesn't, I mean, it just has more credibility when you broadcast what you want on the wall of your band room. Anything about this mission statement that I didn't cover, or is that pretty much a good summation?
I think we covered it. I think it both talked about it.
And of course, here's the simple one, but it's not simple because it's got power. Read it for us, Ron.
It is the mission of the Kearns High School Band to promote, enhance, and maximize music performance levels of all students of the Kearns High School Band program. And this addresses the fact that you want to make sure that each person buys into their responsibility and each person benefits from the things and the processes that you're going through in developing and maintaining your band program.
Now, I like this part because we live in a networking society, world, and you're only as strong as who you network with. Anything you want to say about resource networking?
Yeah, the biggest thing about resource networking is knowing that you should be able to reach out for help. Finding different forums, finding different organizations, finding different groups of people that you can reach out to that will help you as resources to you and your program. Being the band director in a school can sometimes be the most lonely job because you may have several English teachers, several social studies teachers, but you're only going to have one band director and usually one choir director along with it. And now you have one guitar instructor. So you have three music teachers, but all three music teachers have different focuses, and the band director's focus sometimes can become so um, different that they feel that they're alone and they don't feel like they have any kind of help. So you want to be able to reach out and talk to people who may have gone through what you've gone through and who may be going through what you're going through, and just brainstorm every now and then.
Well said. Now, strategies are the building blocks, and let's take a look at them. Uh, Number one, join professional organizations. Anything here?
Right. Well, this book was published by the National Association for Music Education, which is the largest organization for music educators in the world, and NAFME has different satellite groups in every state and also on the local level. So they do all kinds of in-service programs as well as having things on their website that will help you to develop as a professional. And so you want to take advantage of those kinds of things. And also there's the Jazz Educators Network, GEN, which will help band directors who are teaching jazz to be able to have resources, and they do the same kinds of things. They have their convention, they have their website, and they have their satellite groups that will assist you in strategies for teaching.
And networking isn't just national, it can be local. What kind of strategies do you offer here?
Well, one of the things I talk about is getting out of the idea that even though you may participate in competitions, and even though you may try to go to festivals and things where you want your group to be successful, you're not necessarily competing against other band directors to the point that you can't talk to them and you can't share with them and can't network with them and discuss different things, because in most cases the people who can help you the most are the people who have gone through what you're going through, and in order to find out what they're doing without trying to reinvent the wheel, it's sometimes good to reach out to band directors in your state or in your district and or nationally and find out just what's going on.
Now, in creating them, technology, social networking, anything important here?
Yeah, one of the largest groups on Facebook is the group for band directors, and there are about 10,500 members of that group, and it's constantly growing. And this group gives you a social outlet for humorous kinds of things that happen to us as band directors, but it also gives us ways of being able to strategize and find out what kinds of things other people are doing, what kinds of instruments people are using, different kinds of things that you wouldn't necessarily know. And especially if you're in a smaller market, you want to be able to find out what's going on in states and in districts where they have more resources and where things are larger, so that you can tap into those kinds of things. And so using social networks like Lincoln, LinkedIn, um, Facebook, and others will help you to be able to find out some of the answers to some things that you may have questions to, and find out some of the resources that are out there that you can get a hold to.
Attend in-service conferences.
The most important part of things, get out of the school, go somewhere and be a continuous learner. In-service conferences are so helpful because they're college level courses and college level uh, groups, but they're done in such a way that you can go in 1 day or 2 days or a week and find out the answers and solutions to a lot of the problems that you want to have. And so once again, it gives you a chance to network. It gives you a chance to get out and talk to people formally and informally. And in most cases, in-service conferences are fun because you get a chance to see people and talk to people in a way that you outside the classroom, but you can talk to people who do exactly what you do and find out exactly how they have faced some of the things that you've done. So in some cases, in-service conferences are like what you get from the social networking, but they are actually face to face.
Now, different forms, what are we talking about?
The organizations I mentioned, GEN and NAFME and some of the others, have forums where you can put in a statement of a problem you're having and find out what kind of solutions others have come up with, or you can ask questions about different things that you may not have access to from your particular community, and people can help you to find out the answers. And sometimes just reading questions from other people and not necessarily posing a question yourself, you can find out some of the answers to things that you have. So once again, it's an important aspect of being able to get an outside of the classroom on the university level kind of answer to things that you need as an ongoing training part of your program.
Now, we've mentioned some of the support groups here. Anything in summary that makes it obvious that this is an important issue?
No, actually, I think in discussing it up to this point, we've talked about just how important these groups are. And once again, NAFME has guidelines for all kinds of things and answers to a lot of the questions that you have. And because it is the largest group for music educators, there are a lot of things that you could get from their site that you wouldn't necessarily be able to get other places. And so I talk about and I give the site, which is www.nafme.org. And by going there, you can just go up a smorgasbord of things and find and see the kinds of things that you want to see that will help you to troubleshoot and take care of some of the things that are going on in your program.
And that's a longer link um, because that's a specialized link underneath. Can you read
Yes.
that just in case the readers have a little bit of difficulty reading that because of the color bleeding?
Well, actually, I'm having the same trouble. So I would just simply say to go to the nafme.org site and then go to the music ed part, because that's where the formation of the parent boosters group and all those kinds of things can be seen. But unfortunately,
That's okay.
I can't see
I
the last
think
part
the
of it.
emphasis is what I wanted to put in there because you've got to have a starting place, and that's the best one in the industry.
Yes.
Now, we talked about forms. We got three samples here. Anything you want to say about this one?
Well, it's pretty much self-explanatory. You want to on a permission slip, you want to give the student's name. You want to talk about the activity. You want to talk about the time and date. You want to talk about where they're going and make sure the parents know that they're going, and make sure the parents know that the permission is important because the student has to participate in certain things, and you want to make sure that they know that you're taking public transportation or private transportation, or you're expecting them to take their student. And so all those things you want to make sure are on the form.
And now we've got medical forms.
Yes, over the years of traveling inside and outside of the United States, I've discovered the importance of having medical forms, and you want to make sure that you have in the form all kinds of things. And you want to one of the things that I always wanted to make sure that I knew was if there was any kind of pre-existing condition the student had, so that I could be warned of certain things. And if the student had food allergies, or if the student had breathing difficulty, or anything, I wanted to know going into it, so that I would be able to make sure that my chaperones and people involved knew that this person may be someone at risk for a particular allergic reaction, or maybe someone we need to watch and make sure that when we're doing physical activities, they don't get overheated, or they don't get overworked.
Inventory.
Well, this is the one I was talking about that's so important. It can be maintained on your tablet or your smartphone, and it's just basic things. The name of the instrument, the kind of instrument it is, the brand, the serial number of the instrument, the model number, for your purposes of knowing what kind of inventory you're going to need, and how long you're going to need to maintain the inventory, the year of purchase, the kind of conditions in, the finish, and those kinds of things. And then this form also is presented in another way for in the book for student usage, for students that are using instruments during the summer. You want to make sure that each time a student signs an instrument out, uh, they get the instrument in the same kind of condition that the first student got the instrument. And so in your inventory form, you want to make sure that you mark all the kinds of things that are pertinent for you to know about that particular instrument. And then when you're talking about using the instrument for a usage form, you can have most of the same information, but then you're also going to have a place to mark the condition that the instrument was in when it left, and the condition the instrument was in when it came back in, and students' responsibility for caring for the instrument and for getting repairs for the instrument should they run into a problem with the instrument.
Well, your career spans several decades, obviously, but in the second paragraph, I take note that you have some high level professional achievements that are exceptional with Grammys, whether it be the Signature School, um, SBO magazine, which is School Band and Orchestra, recognized you as one of the 50 band directors who made a difference in the year 2005. Downbeat magazine has recognized you as a recipient of excellence in jazz. And when you put it all together, the recording industry, school band and orchestra, and in the jazz idiom, you are a man of all seasons. And like all seasons, that means you do everything well. So I think, without getting too sentimental, this has been a wonderful experience. And I want to give Ron a chance to give a closing comment. Actually, maybe it would be good to show the cover on the book because I think that might be important before we have the closing comments. And I hope you can see that. If not, you can, in your browser, you may be able to magnify it. But this is a synopsis of the book that we've talked about for the last 51 minutes. It basically gives you the high point of what it is. It comes directly from the National Association for Music Education and the publisher. And we don't need to read it, but it's a formidable book. It's comprehensive. And I think now Ron has been set up to give us his best closing comments, whatever they may be.
Well, the one thing that I want everyone to know is the fact that this book is designed to help band directors build and maintain a successful program and not go through some of the trial and errors that I went through in my first few years in trying to hone my skills. I was fortunate that I was able to do most of the things that I suggest in the book. And my daughter is a music education major, and so one of the ways this book came out was I was writing notes and things that I wanted to be able to pass on to her for her to be able to use as a band director. And then it occurred to me that the kinds of questions and issues that she would be facing, there are a lot of other band directors facing, and they might be interested in saying the same kind of things. So it was a book that was kind of written as a father's book to his daughter, but then it was expanded to become a band director's mentor. And so it started off being called the Band Director's Pocket Mentor. But then it was named Quick Reference for Band Directors because the concept and idea was for it to become a quick reference for band directors to be able to have some place to go that would either answer the questions they needed answered or direct them to places where they could find the answers. And so that's the hope of the book, that you will not ever feel alone, and you will not ever feel that there are things that you can't find out, and that you do have resources out there that can help you from becoming someone that burns out and is not as successful as you want to be as a band director.
Well, I'm thrilled, Ron, that we've had a chance to go through the book in some depth. I think the viewers have a lot of information that has been presented to them. And the magic is that we are no less than 12,000 miles apart. Ron is
Exactly.
in Maryland, and I'm in Jinan, China. And our internet connection that I have in China is not always the best, but I think you can see that technology is getting better with age. And hopefully, Ron, we've got a few more years to continue to home in on our skills to share with music educators and prospective music educators. So, thank you. And I'm signing off from, in fact, let's give them a nice hi, nice goodbye. And from Jinan, China and Maryland, thank you. Till the next time.